And we're live, everybody. Welcome to the top 20 pitch night of the second Startup TNT Life Sciences Investment Summit, powered by our friends, Applied Pharmaceutical Innovation.
Yeah, it's Thursday night and we're in for a treat. This is the Life Sciences Top 20 Pitch Night. But Startup TNT is also running two other Top 20 Pitch Nights virtually right now. We have our third annual Clean Tech Summit, as well as our inaugural Ag Tech Summit running in parallel. So if you've joined us here expecting to see Ag Tech and Clean Tech startups, welcome. We're glad you're here, but you may have joined the wrong live stream. So please check our website or Eventbrite to find the right link. Or just stay with us and learn about the amazing companies that are pitching tonight. Because tonight's all about life sciences startups. Startups from across the prairies that are developing products that are going to help improve our health and well-being of ourselves, our loved ones, and our communities. My name is Adrian Mitchell. I've been a TNT investor for the past 2 years and also the partnership lead for Startup TNT. I'm thrilled to be hosting this very special evening with my co-lead, Gloria Tom, our Startup TNT Manitoba lead, and of course, our lead organizing partner who's helped to make this whole thing possible, Amira Chaudhry Basu, Director of Programs and Ecosystem Development at Applied Pharmaceutical Innovation. Welcome, Amira.
Thank you so much, Adrian. Welcome, everyone. I'm so excited to be here along with my team from Applied Pharmaceutical Innovation, rooting and cheering for the amazing life sciences innovations across the prairies. API supports early-stage innovators and entrepreneurs in many different ways. And throughout this evening, we will be sharing ways in which you can engage with us. So do watch the chat and make sure to connect with all of us through our social media channels. Over to you, Gloria.
Thank you so much, Paramita. API and Startup TNT, along with all of our other partners, we really share a love of telling stories. And telling stories is an integral part of what we do together in the community. So even though tonight we are not physically in the same space or venue at this moment, we are still connected through the one land that we all share, wherever you may be physically located tonight. Tonight, we honor those elders whose stories this land carries, and we acknowledge that this land is the traditional territory of the people of Treaties 1 through 11, and those beyond from anywhere in Canada that you may be joining us. We acknowledge that this land was a traditional meeting ground, gathering place, and traveling route to the Anishinaabe, Cree, Ojibwe, and Dene peoples. We acknowledge the nations of the Saulteaux, Blackfoot, Dakota, Lakota, and Nakota Sioux, Siksika, Piikani, Kainai, and Tsuut'ina, and on the national homeland of the Red River Métis. We acknowledge all of the many First Nations, Métis, and Inuit who have walked on this land before us, and we aim to create a safe space for all Indigenous communities. Tonight, we honor their mission to gather the community and share their stories.
Thank you, Gloria. So Startup TNT began in 2019 as a weekly happy hour in Edmonton, where investors, founders, team members, and supporters of startups would get together to make connections with each other, stimulate their local ecosystems with a simple agenda: have fun, make friends, build companies. From that weekly happy hour spread an idea to hold an investment summit, and the first one was in February of 2020. And here we are, 196 weeks later, and we're hosting a weekly happy hour in 5 cities across the prairies, and we've held 19 investment summits. We've brought together over 250 angel investors and invested over $9 million in 65 companies. But we didn't do this alone, and we couldn't do this alone. We have some amazing organizing partners that we've been working on this summit with for the past 3 months. These partners work with many of the startups that you're going to see tonight, and they are truly invested in the success of life sciences startups across the prairies. You're going to meet a bunch of them through the night, co-hosting different panels of pitches, but there is one that deserves a special mention. That the Life Sciences Investment Summit was truly the brainchild of Andrew McIsaac, CEO of Applied Pharmaceutical Innovation, our lead organizing partner. He worked with Zach on the first summit and started us on this journey. Paramita, can you tell us a little bit more about API?
Absolutely, Adrian. I would be happy to. For those of you here who do not know us, Applied Pharmaceutical Innovation, or API in short, is a national not-for-profit that spun out of the University of Alberta with a focus to empower commercial development in the Canadian life sciences industry. And we do this by supporting life sciences entrepreneurs commercialize their innovations through an industry-led collaborative network model. In the process of bringing life-saving research to the market, we also train a next generation of highly qualified personnel who then go on to become the leaders of tomorrow. API was founded in 2017, and over the last 4 years, we have supported over 50 startups and SMEs in more than 55 industry-led projects and created over $500 million in value for the life sciences companies. We do this through our extensive network of more than 100 expert advisors and senior level industry executives. We focus on business, regulatory and patent strategy, clinical trials design, incubation support, as well as programming. We work along the entire product development stage from bench to bedside. And now let's hear some more about the other sponsors for tonight's event.
Thanks, Paramita. And thank you to API for your continued support of the Life Sciences Summit. We also want to give a big thank you and a big shout out to all the amazing life sciences sponsors, core funding partners, and community supporters that help start TNT and the founders who take part in our summits. So Gloria, over to you. Why do we invest in startups?
Why do we invest in startups? I love this question. It's always my favorite one. And really, beyond the fact that these young companies work really, really hard to attract early stage capital, we know that more money is made by pioneering uncharted territory and really thinking outside of the box. And this is what our startups do for us. We support local entrepreneurs who in turn support our local community and bring business development directly into your local areas. Startups need to know that they have an opportunity to truly have the ability to raise early stage capital that is so vital to them in those early years. Startups also need a lot more than money to be successful. They need intros, connections to industry experts who can mentor and advise, and opportunities to elevate their startups in their communities. They really need a community of peers and supporters who can help solve problems in real time. If you didn't catch on to that, hint, hint, come on out to a TNT happy hour. Chances are you may meet people that can help you with all of the above. We've really worked to break open the VC model of investing, and we want to make it as accessible and as simple as we can for investors to get involved. Adrian, why don't you walk us through just a quick second here of how the summit works?
Thank you, Gloria. So how does it work? Make sure I got off mute here. Great. How's it work? Angel investors from TNT and some of our partners like Halo Health pre-commit $5,000 that will go towards the winner of the summit. Between now and the summit finale on March 23rd, those investors break into teams and undertake due diligence on the companies that you're going to see pitching tonight. Some of those investors may also choose to increase their investment amounts as well as invest in some of the companies that don't win in side deals. And that's one of the amazing things about TNT and how at last year's Life Sciences Summit, we raised over $815,000 for 3 companies. But that was last year. And you're probably saying to yourselves, come on, Adrian, what's happening tonight? Well, we've had some amazing companies a part of the summit this year. And we have well over 30 angels, we have over 30 angels around the investor table that have selected the top 20 that they want to see pitch tonight. We also have, at last check, I think we were around 200 attendees registered to watch on both YouTube and Zoom tonight. And as if that's not enough, we're hosting after parties immediately after the pitches in 5 cities: Calgary, Edmonton, Regina, Saskatoon, and Winnipeg. We'll post a link to the after party locations in the chat a few times throughout the night, and we'll be sure to give you the details before the end of the show so that we can see you all there. So Gloria, back to you. Tell us who's pitching tonight.
This is really fun. Who are these fabulous companies that we're going to be hearing from? You can see all the logos up here on the screen of each of the participating startups. We're so proud of each one of you for making it this far. We know how hard the work is. We've got everything being presented tonight, from groundbreaking cancer drugs being developed to save lives, to solutions for managing life-altering chronic diseases, to making machines for the purpose of organ procurement, regenerative medicine, and transplant. We've got companies at every life cycle stage, whether it's pre or post revenue, and all of these companies are going down a regulatory pathway as a part of their journey to commercialization. So there's a saying, ABC, always be closing. We've got ABP, always be pitching. So I'm going to give you a quick rundown on the agenda for this evening. Each company is going to be introduced by a participating partner organization. We've had a quick last minute change here in regards to the pitching companies. Unfortunately, one could not make it. So tonight we've got 19 of our top 20 pitching for 3 minutes each in no particular order. And after that 3 minutes, each company will have 2 minutes for Q&A by a predetermined investor or investing organization that is joining us here tonight. To all of the companies, it is vitally important to stick to that 3-minute mark as we work to keep it fair for everyone that is presenting today. We definitely don't want to stop you in the middle of your pitch, so please be aware of the time. If you do go too far over, either Adrian or myself will verbally gently interrupt to let you know that it's time to wrap it up. To the audience, you've got a job here as well. It's your job to cheer these amazing entrepreneurs on. Your encouraging comments in the chat are welcome. And while these pitches are happening, if there's a way that you can think of where you can get involved and help one of these startups out, please hop into the chat, introduce yourself, and the founders will grab your details once they've completed their pitch. And even though we've got specific investors running Q&A, feel free to put your questions in the chat as well. And our founders will be happy to check in with you after that pitch is complete. This is a showcase of 20 companies who have worked really hard to get here, and all of our comments need to reflect that. Adrian, Paramita, have I missed anything at all?
No, I don't think so.
I don't think so. I think we're good to go.
Okay, that sounds great. So Paramita, I'm going to pass the mic over to you to introduce our first co-host and Q&A investor of the night. It's all yours, so take it away.
Thank you so much, Gloria. Welcome again to our investors and our co-hosts. For the first round on deck for the Q&A, for our first company pitches is Luke Sheen from Halo Health. Welcome, Luke. And I would also like to welcome our first host of the night, Lisa Lafair, who's Director of Business Operations for Health Cities. Health Cities and API have close relationships, and we are so happy that you are here to kick us off. Take it away, Lisa.
Thank you, Paramita. So as Paramita mentioned, I'm Lisa. I'm the Director of Business Operations with Health Cities. Health Cities is an Alberta-based not-for-profit that connects healthcare providers with local innovators to solve challenges that clinicians face in their day-to-day work. We create platforms for companies to test, try, and validate their technologies in a live clinical setting, which helps de-risk their solution to make them more attractive to investors and helps them get to commercialization faster. I'm happy to introduce the first pitch company of the night, and that would be Oliver from Qualisure Diagnostics.
Great. Can you hear me and see that? Excellent. Well, thank you very much for the opportunity to present today. My name is Oliver Babe. I'm founder and CEO of Qualisure Diagnostics. So imagine you had cancer. You're already sick from the cancer, and now your doctor is recommending a treatment that's going to make you sicker. Something that may cause your hair to lose your hair. You may get crippling fatigue or sores of the hands, feet, and mouth. But then they tell you that they can't even tell you whether you're going to benefit. I've seen that story unfold so many times as a clinician over the last 25 years, and then it became very real to me when my own mother developed lung cancer. So the solution to this is really to personalize cancer care. And the way we do that is with diagnostic tests that inform you on the underlying biology of a cancer. tests that tell you how quickly it's going to grow, its capability to spread to other areas of the body, and whether it's going to respond to particular treatments. And we have a platform for developing those kinds of tests. The first element of that platform is our network of oncologists that inform us on unmet clinical needs. We have a machine learning algorithm, which we call HiLifer, which scours very large genomic databases to identify the molecular features of a cancer that are most closely related to survival outcomes. And then we have a repeatable workflow that helps us to identify the patterns in those molecules that comprise our tests. Our first test is a test for thyroid cancer. The reason that we focused on that is that clinicians asked us for a test to help them to make better decisions. The way the test works is that we get a small sample of tumor. We look at the pattern of expression of the genes that we know are most closely related to the chance of recurrence after surgery. And that information provides the clinicians with an understanding of how best to treat that patient. So for example, if there's a low risk of recurrence, they would treat that patient relatively conservatively. Whereas if there's a high risk of recurrence, they would treat it more aggressively, perhaps with total thyroidectomy and radioactive iodine. The complex information that's produced by our test is very rapidly processed by our cloud-based engine, which we call Molecular Decoder. Molecular Decoder houses all of our diagnostic algorithms and very quickly produces a test report, no matter where the test is done anywhere in the world. This is going to be integral to our strategy for reaching international markets. We are not a one-trick pony. We have a number of other tests that we're also developing, each of which has very significant revenue potential. We have just launched Thyroid Guide PX in the United States, and now we're engaging with prescribing physicians as well as larger organizations such as Kaiser Permanente. We have good initial traction. We've already sold 48 tests. We think that we can achieve 20% market penetration within a few years because of the lack of a similar test like this in the market. And that coincides with an annual revenue of over $40 million. This is our team. We all have diverse and complementary expertise, and we're all very enthusiastic about bringing precision oncology to reality. Thank you very much for your attention. I look forward to meeting some of you over the next while to discuss more about our company.
Great, thanks, Oliver. We'll just jump right into question. I think we only get one. Assuming full market penetration in North America, just really roughly, how many people can you help with your technology?
Well, there's about 56,000 people a year that have this particular cancer. As I mentioned, we have a number of other projects currently on the way, and that would help over 500,000 people a year. So it's really a repeatable workflow and something that can reach out to a lot of people who are embarking on the cancer treatment pathway.
Okay, great. Thank you for your answer.
You just have the one question, Luke, or do you have another one?
Yeah, I mean, I can ask questions until the cows come, but I think we're a bit behind on schedule, are we?
Okay. I guess we will move on to the next pitcher, and that would be Peter from Amira Medical.
Thank you very much. It's a pleasure to be here, and thank you for the opportunity. So I'm going to pitch for you our idea. Of a company. So I'm a clinician, a neurologist, and a neuroscientist here at the Foothills campus in Calgary. We do a lot of interesting science, and we had an idea that some of these things will be relevant for commercialization. So we founded a company about 3 years ago called Amira, whose main mission at the moment, but not the only one, is to develop an early test for detecting Alzheimer's disease. In the earliest phases, hopefully even in the pre-symptomatic phase. But it's not the only goal that is turning out to be interesting, but Alzheimer's is the most immediate one. And why would this be interesting and of value in the field? Everyone knows about AD. It's a huge problem. It's only getting worse. There are millions of people around the world affected. Probably everyone on this call knows or has someone close to them who's affected. It's costing a huge amount of money, exerting a huge toll on the person, caregivers, and the healthcare system. The clinical trial space is very large. There's a lot of activity, but interestingly, it's actually very difficult to diagnose the disease. If you're far enough along, then it's fairly straightforward by the clinician. However, at that stage, treatments don't seem to work. So the goal is to diagnose the disease as early as possible, probably even in the pre-symptomatic phase. At the moment, the state of the art is PET scans where the patient is injected with a radioactive tracer, or a spinal tap where you have to have a needle in the back and your spinal fluid is sent off for testing. So our goal is to have the equivalent diagnostic accuracy, but with a much simpler, less expensive, non-invasive test like a blood test. And where we differ from virtually every other approach, all these neurodegenerative diseases, AD as well, are based on misfolding of proteins. Proteins need to form normally to function in the body. When they misfold, they cause disease. And our test is designed to not measure how much or how little of a certain protein you might have in a biofluid, but what is its folding state. And this predicts whether you will have the disease and potentially how rapidly you will progress and how severely you'll be affected. So here's a typical sample data set. We take blood, we stain it with fluorescent probes. We take spectral images, and you can see that the Alzheimer's patient has a different signature from the control here in purple. You can apply machine learning algorithms to these images, and some of our recent efforts show an excellent classification accuracy between healthies here and those afflicted over here. A study we published last year on a larger cohort in partnership with the cognitive clinics here at the Foothills, 90 subjects, resulted in AUC of 0.88. Now, what is this? The AUC tells you how accurate your test is at predicting if you're normal and if you have the disease, will the test be positive? You don't want to make false misdiagnoses either way. The perfect test is 1.0. That will never exist, but 0.88 is on par with everything else that's out there with more invasive approaches such as spinal taps and PET scans. So the short-term goal is to assist pharmaceutical companies to select patients. A huge amount of money is spent trying to select candidates for treatment trials. Most of them are not eligible. If we can pre-screen them more easily for the companies,
Amira, I'm going to need you to wrap up shortly.
Okay. And for the longer term is to screen the general population to identify people in the earliest phases and even healthy people who may be at risk in 5 to 10 years down the line. Now that treatments are coming online, this may become extremely relevant and extremely important. Last slide, Alzheimer's is our goal, but it turns out that many other diseases are also based on protein misfolding. So this could be a platform applicable to a broad variety of diseases that has huge market potential, and of course could help people in a great deal if when we succeed by branching out to these others as well. So I'm going to end there and happy to take any questions. Thank you.
Great, thanks, Peter. What's your IP portfolio currently?
So we have, I don't know, George, if you're on the call, we have patents issued for protection of the fluorescence technology in Alzheimer's, and also we are looking at multiple sclerosis, which is also a related disorder. So we have patents, a portfolio to cover those in blood using our technology.
Great. And how far are you on your regulatory pathway, i.e., are you running animal trials currently? Is it still in lab?
No, this is all human samples. So we have a large research program in the lab on animals, both in Alzheimer's and MS, but all the data I showed you, this is all on human, using human subjects with the goal of developing a human test as quickly as possible. So whatever
will be the... Yeah, go ahead.
I'm saying whatever biology we learn from the animals is translated through the company into human applications, and that's kind of the pipeline that we've been following.
Great. So what will be the next regulatory pathway milestone for this raise?
Yeah, so right now what we'd like to do is increase the numbers. We have our pilot data set of 90. Of course, our regulators and potential pharma partners would like to see more, and that's what we're actively working on now. So once we get to 200 or 300 subjects, then I think we'll be in a good position to file for regulatory approval and approach pharma partners.
Great, thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, great job, Peter. The last company that I get to introduce tonight is Henry from Wosler.
Hey everyone. Imagine a future where all healthcare services are completely decentralized, accessible, and you could receive even care as severe as minor surgery without ever being in the same location as your provider. This is the future we're building at Wosler. I'm Henry Medical, and I'm a radiology resident and one of the founders of Wosler, and we're building the next generation of healthcare delivery. Our story started when I was in medical school in a small town called Wabasca. I was a medical student and I met a wonderful lady who for 3 months, she could not access diagnostic ultrasound services for a suspected breast cancer. Now, Irene would have needed more than just an ultrasound scan. She would have needed a mammogram and maybe a biopsy, but none of these were accessible to her. And one of the main reasons healthcare is not accessible is actually labor related. Healthcare providers are poorly distributed, they're inefficiently utilized, and as a result, very, very expensive. Most providers want flexibility, and they're not incentivized to commit to a rural location or to work after hours or odd hours. And telemedicine platforms, while helpful, they only allow audio-video telecommunication and not useful for services that require patient contact. Hospitals and clinics, particularly those in rural and remote areas, spend a lot of money on staff recruitment and retention, often with very little success. This problem is particularly relevant in diagnostic ultrasound services, where 30% of any population would require an ultrasound scan in a year. Also, the fact that 20% of sonographers have career-ending workplace injury also complicates the entire problem. We will start by going after the market and the customer with the most pain point. And this is the hospitals and clinics in rural and remote US and Canada. This represents about a $1 billion service obtainable market. Obviously, the market is very, very large for just diagnostic imaging services alone. Our beachhead market is sonographer labor, and we have developed a working prototype that gives the sonographer the ability to perform an ultrasound scan remotely using high-speed internet and teleoperated robots. It gives the sonographer greater work flexibility, allowing work from home opportunities and reduced risk of injury. For the clinic and hospital, it reduces the cost of recruitment and retention of sonographers. We've developed our regulatory strategy, and we recently performed our first long distance scan from London, Ontario to Wabasca, Alberta, 3,500 kilometers away. Today, we have 11 clinics and potential customers interested in our solution. There are a few people doing this, and we beat the competition in 4 different categories. First, our business model eliminates hardware cost. Second, our end-to-end solution relieves the customer the pressure of ever recruiting and retaining labor. Third, we reduce operational cost and improve efficiency with features like tool exchanger and gel dispenser. And we also have structured data collection mechanism built into our design with the goal of using that to improve future performance. Our primary business model is subscription-based B2B platform as a service.
I'm going to need to ask you to wrap it up shortly.
Thank you. So we will provide the hardware to the customer at no extra cost, and then we either have them pay monthly or revenue share with them. We are really the all-star team. We're a team of doctors, engineers, nurses, scientists, and we also have advisors, including regulatory specialists. So our 2023 milestone is really to finalize our commercial unit, obtain regulatory clearance, and hit 54,000 in monthly recurring revenue. Thank you so much for listening.
Thanks, Henry. How many locations is this technology currently deployed in?
We still no location right now. We're still building out the commercial unit.
Okay, and what regulatory pathway would you have to pursue? And to be specific, what I mean by that is the indication of use that you presented, which is diagnostic sonography, can differ greatly from handheld, right? I mean, it's one of those mediums where pressure really does matter versus robotic. So then what kind of certifications and regulatory pathway do you have to pursue to make sure that this is a reliable diagnostic medium?
Yeah, so our indication for use is really a tool to allow a sonographer perform an ultrasound scan remotely. That indication for use is currently being deployed and marketed in US and Canada. So there's a predicate device out there. In fact, one of our competitors is a predicate that we're going to be using for the US 510K process. In Health Canada, it will be considered a class 2 medical device just based on the risk stratification.
All right, and final question. Do you have any integration with existing EMR such as Epic or EMR for the outputs generated by the diagnostic imaging?
Yeah, so that's something that we're gonna have to work on after we start deploying our solution. Luke, the thing is, we really understand the service market because we provide ultrasound services right now, and we're integrated to Netcare. So it's not gonna be that difficult for Netcare. For other jurisdictions, we're gonna have to follow their protocol. Yeah.
Okay, great, thank you.
All right, thank you so much to Luke and Lisa. We're going to move right along to our next section for companies. On deck for Q&A, we have Yasmin from Accelerate Fund. Really would like to note that Accelerate Fund is one of the best friend sponsors for all three of the sector summits. So Yasmin, thank you so much for being here with us today. Tonight, it is also my absolute pleasure to introduce our second co-host of the night, Christine Reimer, Senior Business Officer for Prairie's Economic Development Canada. A huge reason why we get to do what we love to do every day is due in thanks to Christine and Prairie's Ken. Christine, it's a pleasure to have you joining us tonight. What do you think of the night so far?
Oh, this is fantastic. I can't wait to get to the end of these. I wish I could, listen in when there's some diligence after, but, looking forward to it. Anyways, so thanks for the intro. Yeah, Prairie's Ken. We are advisors, pathfinders, conveners, and I think most importantly for this, investors. We support economic development in business and innovation. So we're so pleased to be able to support Startup TNT because they in turn support the entrepreneurs. And a quick plug on our programs. So TNT receives support through the innovation ecosystem, the regional innovation ecosystem funding, which is for nonprofits that support ecosystem development. We also have on the for-profit side, the business scale up and productivity loan. So this is for high growth businesses looking to scale. So hopefully that's some of these startups in the future. But moving right along, we have Kathleen McMahon. So Kathleen is from Waveview Imaging, where they're developing a novel and comfortable microwave breast imaging device. So huge unmet need in this market. And they're going to, do treatment monitoring as well as improve screening for people of all ages. And the device is currently in clinical testing. So take it away, Kathleen.
Thanks so much for that introduction. Hello, everyone. I'm very excited to be here, hoping to discuss today Waveview Imaging's new technology platform for pain-free and timely breast imaging. So to start, it's important to note that 1 in 8 women will experience breast cancer in her life. And I think it's fair to say that almost everyone knows someone who's been impacted by breast cancer. Our CEO, Jeremy, actually lost a loved one from breast cancer. She was a mom with 2 kids, and she was only in her 30s. It was really this loss that catalyzed Waveview Imaging's mission to prevent events like these from happening. So the current gold standard for breast cancer screening, mammography, is really only routinely offered to women above age 50. It suffers from misdiagnoses in dense breasts and is really an uncomfortable experience for many. This results in low screening uptake in eligible women. We have developed a simple device that's really easy to use and it's portable. The device is safe for frequent imaging and it provides immediate results. The tech is comfortable, it's affordable, it's accessible, and it can be easily deployed in rural communities as well as developing countries. We have the potential to catch breast cancer earlier and make life-changing impacts for women everywhere. So our latest device is now ready for scalable manufacturing. We will be monitoring treatment in cancer patients in our upcoming study, and we also have interest from leading oncologists and radiologists interested in testing the device. We also have a provisional patent in place, which is fantastic. Our preliminary results have shown stable and consistent scans in patients over time, and this will allow, of course, for the detection of any worrisome changes that may arise. We can also produce 3D images for the improved estimation of tumor dimensions and properties. So other companies that are developing microwave breast cancer imaging use a complex and bulky system, whereas our portable model on the left there is super simple to operate and a lot more cost effective. Our revenue model includes the sale of the device alongside the cloud-based imaging software with a licensed service. This will really bring in recurring revenue with each scan and imaging report. Dr. Elise here and Jeremy Borky are world-renowned leaders in microwave imaging research and have over 30 years of collective experience. And we really are fortunate to have a great team all working hard to make this device a reality for women. We're looking for $650,000 to get us to our next milestone, which will significantly de-risk the technology with a finalized design, including FCC and electrical safety clearance. So chances are most of you here today have an experience with breast cancer, whether you watched a loved one's battle or fought it yourself. And I think we can all agree that it's time something changed. Please join us on our mission to detect breast cancer earlier and improve outcomes for breast cancer patients everywhere. Thank you.
Wow, phenomenal, Kathleen. Thank you for that great start to this session in block. So a couple of questions for you. First of all, your clinical study that you're in right now, can you tell us about the timeline of that medical clinical study? And as well, does it apply to Canadian population? Is it US? What is sort of your distribution of diversity there?
Thank you. That's a great question. It's in Calgary, actually, at the Tom Baker Cancer Center. It's in 25 participants for now, and I believe the timeline is roughly a year for that study. But essentially, the goal of the study is to monitor responses to neoadjuvant chemotherapy, which is when before you go in for surgery, they'll try to reduce tumor size with that chemo. And really, that's sort of our first unmet clinical need we're trying to address, because right now there's ultrasound. I know that previous pitch actually touched on that, but we have accessibility issues. And it's oftentimes only available at the very beginning and at the very end. So really, it's a guiding tool for oncologists, and that's what we're pursuing first. And then in parallel, we will be having another study, which we're about to file an ITA for, which will be a general data collection study in a wider group of people.
Okay, perfect. And you mentioned your revenue strategy in your pitch deck, but can you go a little bit further into that, kind of the division between those three buckets, hardware, SaaS, and the reports? Would it be an equal split, or do you see one kind of pulling ahead from the rest?
That's a good question. I see it more being the imaging reports are along with the SaaS, like that's all going to be under the same umbrella. But what we see is either a sale or lease of the device. But to bring in that reoccurring revenue, we've sort of decided on having a model where there's a set number of scans per month that clinics can pay for, and then we go from there. So it's going to be sort of a subscription-based model that, again, we hope will bring in that recurring revenue and also provide a little bit of incentive to be using the device.
Perfect. Thanks so much, Kathleen. Appreciate your time.
Of course. Thanks for the great questions.
All right. Are we ready to move along?
Yeah, we're good, Christine. Thank you.
Yeah, I'd love to introduce the next company is IMBiotechnologies, and it's Mike Stewart here. There he is. So IMB is based in Edmonton. It's a medical device company looking at commercializing a few different devices in the prevalent sort of health issue space. Their lead product is ECOBI embolization microspheres. So these treat malignant tumors like liver cancer, benign tumors like uterine fibroids, enlarged prostates caused by benign prostatic hyperplasia, joint pain due to osteoarthritis, and other tissues. That's a lot. That's awesome. So right now, microspheres are approved for use in North America, and they're being sold in Canada and the US. So, all right, let's hear more. Take it away, Mike.
Great. Thanks for the intro. I really appreciate it. So good afternoon. My name is Mike Stewart, and I'm president and CEO of IMBiotechnologies Limited. We're located in Edmonton, Alberta, and we have a lead product, as you mentioned, ECOBI embolization microspheres, that is regulatory approved in Canada, the US, and now in the Middle East, and we're currently marketing in each of these territories. We have an experienced management team and a strong board of directors that supports the company, and guides the company. And for 2023, our objective is to focus on private clinics in the US. These clinics, otherwise known as OBLs or office-based laboratories, focus on the treatment of large target markets, as you mentioned, uterine fibroids and large prostates, and even joint pain due to osteoarthritis. Now, the reason we want to work with these clinics is because we're actually selling to the end user, the decision maker, as opposed to having to deal with the middleman when you deal with a big hospital. And the reason they want to work with us is because what they want to do is they want to bring in more patients. And to that end, our product has marketing leverage. And probably the biggest leverage that it has is that the product is biodegradable. So the competitive agents that are on the market right now are permanent implants. So that means once they're delivered into the body of the patient, they stay in the patient's body for life. That's not so good. So this is a competitive area. These clinics compete against each other. So once we get into one clinic, the hope would be that other clinics would want our product just to compete with the first clinic. The market is large for a product like ours. We manufacture in the US, we warehouse in the US and ship to clinics in North America, and now we're starting to ship into the Middle East. We have strong IP. Probably the most important thing is we've kept know-how as a trade secret. There's lots of ways of getting around things once you start to read patents. We manufacture in the US. Whoops. So our current traction, we've signed a contract with Alberta Health Services. We have repeat orders out of the US at several clinics. And we're in discussions with some of these private clinics that are looking for new products to attract new patients. Most recently, we've signed a letter of intent with an entity that's interested in licensing our product and potentially acquiring the technology. Basically, that's our exit strategy for current investment. So hopefully things go well. And what we're looking to do is raise $350,000 to focus on this marketing to these private clinics and also to manufacture product. So in summary, we have a lead product that addresses large target markets. We have demonstrated traction, marketing leverage. And most recently, we've got this LOI signed with an entity that may be interested in acquiring us. So thank you for your attention, and I look forward to any questions you might have.
That's great, Mike. Thank you so much for that presentation. Yes, I guess first question is on your regulatory pathway. I guess what have you, I guess maybe a better question is what is ahead for regulation for your product?
Right now we have a 510(k) in the US and a medical device license in Canada. And the way this works with these particular agents is you can gain more approvals through specific indications. But treatment with agents like ours does not specifically require that you gain approval. The physicians they have their own choice to make when it comes to treating patients. So there's no rush on doing something like this. However, once we get regulatory approval for an indication like joint pain, we can aggressively market for it. So that's the advantage of getting those regulatory approvals. That would be the next thing. I think we'd go after joint pain quickly.
Okay, makes sense. And if you can explain to us a little bit on the revenue or pay model, is it predominantly patient pay? Have you done any reimbursements or gone through that process at all?
Actually, it's coded. So it's coded in the US. It's not patient pay. So it's pretty straightforward in the US and in Canada. It's very straightforward. Having said that, though, patients will pay extra to get a product that other clinics don't have. So it could be that the clinics will up the charges to the patients beyond that which is reimbursed.
Okay, and last question for you, just on the capital raise that you put out there today, we understand what that might be going towards, but can you expand a little bit on the manufacturing and some of the other marketing? Are you deploying labor and people in those markets as well, and expanding manufacturing at all?
We're expanding manufacturing. What we want to do is we want to bring down the cost of goods. So we want to increase the volume for manufacturing. And as far as marketing is concerned, marketing to these clinics, we want to be very specific with physicians. We've learned a lot from COVID. The biggest thing is once something like COVID hits, you can't go in to see a physician. You have to have a really sound way of getting your message across. Perhaps that's with videos or maybe video virtual reality or virtual reality simply. So we'll be looking into things like that. We're already exploring those opportunities.
That's great. Thank you so much for your time today. Appreciate the presentation.
Really appreciate it. Thank you.
Of course, Christine, back to you.
That was great. Thanks. All right, moving along, we have Colin from Nanostics. So Nanostics is a precision health company developing novel diagnostic tests to bring clarity to healthcare decisions. So I know their lead product is also in the prostate space. So it's a prostate cancer diagnostic test that is 3 times more accurate at detecting clinically significant prostate cancer over current standard of care. So take it away, Colin.
Colin, I think you're on mute.
Yes, well, thank you, Christine. Hopefully I'm no longer on mute, and thank you for TNT to giving me the opportunity to tell you about Nanostics. As Christine mentioned, my name is Colin Koros. I'm the Chief Commercialization Officer at Nanostics, where our goal is to bring clarity to healthcare decisions. And so at Nanostics, we've developed a proprietary platform technology that uses machine learning, incorporates clinical features with biological information to get a risk score or a probability of disease. And we use this risk score and disease to help improve healthcare decisions. As you can imagine, this technology is impactful on all the major healthcare sectors, from cardiovascular disease, neurodegenerative disease, and oncology. Today, I'm going to tell you about our lead product, Clarity Dx Prostate, which is 3 times more accurate at detecting prostate cancer than the current PSA testing. It's easy to use and very scalable. So why prostate cancer? So currently, men above 50, they get screened for prostate cancer. It's a simple blood test called a PSA test or a prostate-specific antigen test. And if you have high levels of PSA in your blood, it could be indicative of prostate cancer. But to really to diagnose and determine if you do have prostate cancer, you have to undergo a biopsy, which involves 12 needles into the prostate. And because of the location of the prostate, this could lead to a lot of side effects. And the challenge is the PSA test has an 80% false positive rate. So a lot of men think they may have prostate cancer, undergoing diagnosis, and it's not needed. Recently, just last year, we completed a 1,400 patient clinical study with Clarity Dx Prostate, showed that we're 3 times more accurate than PSA alone at detecting prostate cancer. And we currently just validated this test on another 900 patients from the UCLA with also very positive results. And so we're proposing a new clinical care pathway for prostate cancer. We're going to continue with the PSA test, but if you do have an elevated PSA test, you will then go on to get a Clarity Dx Prostate test, which is much more accurate. And that will determine whether or not you should go on to get a biopsy. Once adopted, this will reduce the number of biopsies, save healthcare costs and save lives. Our goal currently is to launch this test in 2023, initially as a laboratory developed test with our partners here in Canada, DynaLife, a partner in the US, Proteon. But our long-term goal is really to license this technology to all the major lab providers in the US and globally. We put together a strong team of scientists, clinicians, and business development people to execute on our goals. And we currently have a $2 million safe round open, and there's $470,000 remaining. If you're interested, reach out, and we hope to talk to more people. Thank you.
Great. Thank you, Colin, for that awesome presentation. Yes, a couple of questions for you. So first of all, can you talk a little bit about your competitors? Who else do you see in this space, especially in liquid biopsy, that are maybe attacking some similar issues?
Yeah, absolutely. So this problem with prostate cancer screening has been known for some time. We have a few competitors. One of them is called a 4K. It's a blood test as well. They have very similar accuracy to us, but they've incorporated some additional biomarkers, and their test costs $1,000. Our test uses doesn't use those types of biomarkers, and we can sell it for much cheaper at a higher accuracy, and we're going to compete that way. The other competing test that has an accuracy as high as ours is a urine-based test, but it requires an extra visit to the doctor and a rigorous digital rectal exam before. And so the adoption of that test isn't very high. So we have a low-cost, high-growth test that we think is going to have an impact on the community.
Okay, makes sense. And you talked a little bit about your partnership strategy with entities like DynaLife. Are you currently in market? And if you are, how is that going so far?
We are not in market, although we hope to be in market very soon. We're going through the accreditation process now, and hopefully in the next few months, we'll be able to launch first in Alberta, then the US, and then it'll lead to more partnerships as well.
Okay, and maybe my last question for you is just the raise amount. What is that going towards? What's the use of proceeds?
The proceeds are going to go really to drive the initial sales of Clarity DX Prostate. The idea is to get to a certain level of sales and adoption, and that's really going to drive our licensing discussion with the larger labs. But the further along, the more that pathway we can get, the better negotiation power we have, and the better licensing deals we think we'll have.
Okay, perfect. Thanks, Colin. Those are all my questions for you.
Thank you.
Perfect. Back to you, Christine.
Thanks, Colin. That was great. All right, moving on to FentaGone with Simran. So FentaGone is a medical technology company. They're trying to reduce the number of drug overdoses occurring on the street due to fentanyl contamination. So their product is unique in that it's an embedded syringe to allow the user to access their risk of an overdose in their most vulnerable and isolated moments. All right, take it away, Simran.
Hi, everyone. I'm just starting to share my screen. There we go. Hello, everyone. So every person on this screen that you see here is someone's mother, father, child. Every person on this screen is loved, and unfortunately, every person on this screen is dead, killed by one of the leading causes of death in Canada, the opioid epidemic. These losses not only take the ones you are looking at here, they take away families and destroy individuals across the nation. One of the individuals in this photo is my loved one who died 6 years ago at the hands of their addiction. The need for your investment is urgent. The opioid crisis is only getting worse. And it's costing the Canadian government approximately $50 billion annually, which equates to over $1,000 per Canadian. There are two main technologies currently in place in hopes to reduce the amount of overdoses occurring due to fentanyl. They both have massive limitations that further result in them being ineffective at accomplishing this goal. Currently, we are not addressing this large gaping hole in the harm reduction market. We currently do not have viable street-level testing available for users to utilize in their most vulnerable and isolated moments that assesses their risk of an overdose due to fentanyl contamination and ultimately saves their lives. However, we have done so through our innovation, FentaGone. In our solution, we take a fentanyl detecting technology and embed this directly within a 1 ml syringe design. And this allows us to address the ritualistic aspect of drug use. A user goes about their regular routine, injecting the substance at the body of the syringe. They will move through and activate our technology, providing them with real-time feedback as to if their drug is contaminated with a lethal dose of fentanyl. Currently, we have a functional prototype created with medical-grade chemically inert polymer. The anatomy of the syringe comes in 3 parts: the plunger, the body, and the hub. In our design, we modify the body, providing 2 main advantages. The first being that 2/3 of the design is the same. Manufacturing is simpler and therefore cheaper. And the second being that there's no additional cost on the end of the user, making it a safe tool for the street. We have a 2-person co-founding team with technical expertise in biochemistry and nanotechnology. And to bring our product to life, these are some of the amazing people we are working with, including 2 research labs from the University of Alberta in biochemistry and opioid research, mechanical engineers from the Imperial College of London, and mentorship from TELUS Health and IRAP. Since year 1, we've created an MVP that we are currently optimizing. We've also secured close to $200,000 in non-dilutive funding, and we've been collaborating with leaders in the innovation space, including TELUS Health, WhatSolve, Alberta Innovates, and many community leaders involved in harm reduction. Our near future includes completing our research trials, establishing a pilot project, as well as finalizing our patenting and Health Canada regulatory process. Looking at the federal budget alone, the Government of Canada has allocated $100 million into addressing this opioid crisis, but this product has huge scalability. Our revenue model is based on capturing a portion of this budget and selling our product at a unit price of $1.30 to the government, and we plan to grow our market capture year by year as our product gains traction. We're also exploring private means towards gaining revenue as well. Our syringe is also immensely cost-effective, saving thousands per syringe in comparison to your average emergency cost. Together, we can revolutionize the harm reduction industry and prevent thousands of accidental overdoses and deaths in the future. Thank you.
Excellent job, Simran. Thank you so much for that presentation. Very impactful, of course. A couple of questions for you then. So you've touched on your go-to-market strategy. You've got the pay model there and who you're attacking. But where do you think you're going to get the adoption apart from the kind of federal level Canadian agency? Are there other markets that you're interested in?
Of course. I hope you can see. I don't know if my video is turned on.
I think the video is off. Yeah. Oh, there we are.
Okay. Sorry about that. Yeah. So yeah, of course, our public stream is mainly going to be capturing those government markets. However, we have been exploring private streams with private pharmaceutical companies. And one of those pilots that we're hoping to launch is in a few of those outpatient care facilities that are privately owned, as well as private pharmaceutical companies in Lethbridge, Medicine Hat, as well as in Calgary.
Okay, wonderful. And for your raise, we understand you have some money that you want to get into the door to further your research developments, but what beyond capital do you think you need at this stage?
Of course. So we are very early in on our development, and we've been able to garner quite a bit of non-dilutive funding, which has helped us significantly in our research process. However, of course, more guidance and expertise within the field is always it would always help in our traction moving forward. We're working in a very niche space in the harm reduction industry, one that's not usually looked upon. So it's one that we're hoping to bring more attention to and gain more support in our traction towards as well.
Okay, perfect. And my very last question that might have already been answered, but timelines to getting into market, what do you foresee that to be? And maybe I missed it in your pitch.
Yeah, of course. So our timeline that we're hoping to gain into market is within the next year or so. We hope to finalize our patenting process and kind of finalize that Health Canada approval process as well. And we hope to launch our first few pilot projects early next year.
Okay, perfect. Well, thank you for the pitch. Thanks for your attention today, and pass it back to you, Christine.
Thank you so much.
All right. Thanks so much. That was fantastic. I think we're now heading into, who's there? Adrian, to intro co-host number 3.
Good job. No, thanks a lot. Thanks a lot, Christine and Yasmin. Great questions, great intros. We've had some pretty awesome pitches so far, really inspirational work being done by life sciences startups in the prairies. I'm super impressed. Next on deck for questions and answers is Amit Patel from the UC Health Fund, another one of our organizing partners for the summit. But first, it's my distinct pleasure to introduce the co-host for the next panel of companies, Bindi Ferguson, Director of Commercialization Health at Alberta Innovates. And just so you guys know, Alberta Innovates is another one of our core funding partners at Startup TNT and of the Life Sciences Summit. So take it away, Bindi.
Well, thanks, Adrian. It's a pleasure to be here, and I echo your comments. All the pitches have been great so far tonight. So the vast majority of folks on the line know me, so I'm not going to go into details. I'll put some information in the chat for anyone who doesn't know me. Please reach out. We're here to help support companies like everyone on the call tonight. So with that, it is my great pleasure to introduce you to Claire from Neuraura. They are leaders in microelectrodes that have amazing applications, anything from brain surgery now to women's health. So Claire, please take it away. Do we have Claire?
Possible Claire hasn't made it back yet. She was picking up her son, I know that. So maybe we can, if it's not too much of a disruption, we can jump to the next company and we'll see if Claire makes it back here in time.
That works. I hope, Jordan, you're ready because you're up next. So Cohesic, they are a perfect example of how Alberta is really leading in applying artificial intelligence in the healthcare space. So Jordan, tell us all about Cohesic.
Yeah, thank you very much for that introduction. And I do know Claire is on the line, so hopefully that works out afterwards, but I'll jump into my presentation. So hopefully everyone can see my screen. Please let me know if you can't. Okay. So one day, Mrs. C, she was taken to a hospital with heart failure symptoms. And she was understandably frightened, but she was relieved after the doctor examined her and said, you know what, you can change the medications, go home and see your family doctor next week. But unfortunately, she died at home a few days later. And so her daughter, actually our COO, was left wondering, what if? What if that doctor had known how bad things really were? Would her mother still be alive? And this is unfortunately a common story. It's another life cut short, not because we can't help patients, but because we don't know who needs what help when. And we have spent billions of dollars pushing the bounds of medical knowledge. But the pace of this innovation far exceeds our ability to operationalize that knowledge. And so too often, that knowledge, which is our greatest asset, remains locked away in endless journal articles or inaccessible databases. But here's the thing, when it comes to our health, knowledge deferred is life lost. And so that's really why we built Cohesic, which is the next generation knowledge platform that ensures doctors have the knowledge they need so that patients can receive the care they deserve. So by combining existing expert knowledge with contextual data and predictive artificial intelligence, Cohesic delivers distilled and relevant knowledge to doctors making care decisions for cardiovascular patients. Now, Cohesic is already trusted by some of the most influential healthcare systems in North America. Altogether, our customers provide care for over 23 million people, and this gives us access to a very diverse population of cardiovascular patients as well as their health data. And this includes over 250,000 comprehensive cardiovascular data sets that we have access to with linked outcomes. And really, this unprecedented data resource has allowed us to develop AI models that can, for example, identify patients who are at 34 times greater risk of heart failure admission, as well as patients who are at 24 times greater risk of developing atrial fibrillation. Now, these models can be deployed directly into the Cohesic platform, and we have a complete AI production pipeline already developed for the next set of models that we're working on. And we have now also partnered with pharma companies to improve therapy decisions. So having validated our products, our business model, our sales and customer success processes, we are raising capital so that we can scale and rapidly expand our customer base in the cardiology market before further expanding into neurology and beyond. So we all want better care for ourselves and for our loved ones. So if you are interested in learning more or interested in investing in us, please reach out and join the revolution. And we'll be here changing the world one heart at a time. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Jordan, for that excellent pitch. So yeah, I've got a few questions that came up. So can you comment quickly on the difference in selling to the US versus Canada? How have you found that process?
Yeah, I mean, we have actually found success across, I'll break it roughly into 3 different types of hospital networks. Public healthcare networks, such as those in Canada, focusing largely around value-based care, reducing costs, improving efficiency and outcomes. And then as we moved into the US market, of course, that is a very different system, but we have been able to sell both into academic centers by focusing on the value of data to improve their research, as well as for-profit hospital networks, both in terms of competitive advantage, increasing revenue, improving outcomes, and really helping them achieve those value-based goals.
Thank you. So just along that same line of questioning, you mentioned some other use cases for your technology. Given how challenging it is to sell into these markets, do you think that you would expand geographically or expand your use cases first, which would be a strategic priority in your mind?
Yeah, for us, currently expanding into other diagnostic modalities is the priority. So we, for example, echocardiography and cardiac CT, both of which we're launching very soon. That dramatically expands our market within North America. Although our current products, we are now going over into the UK and other markets and beginning to sell those validator products as well.
Perfect. And just last question, can you tell us about the latest, biggest win that the company celebrated?
Yeah, I think to put at the top, we were just funded for a $3 million collaboration project with pharma to improve therapy decisions, as well as accelerate adoption of guidelines. And that's in collaboration with a few other Canadian institutions as well. And so this area of pharma being another market is also something that we are pursuing, as they are also desperate to find ways to improve the performance of clinical trials and identify and monitor their products post-market.
Excellent. Thank you so much. And I'll pass it back to you, Bindi.
Thank you.
Great win, Jordan. So Claire's just having some technical difficulties, but we'll get to her at the end. So I'm going to now introduce, or maybe we've got it. Tim's got you up, Claire. Are you here with us?
Hey guys, thank you for that. Awesome.
So take it away, Claire.
Great. 8 years. Thousands of dollars, invasive procedures, even surgery, and hormone injections, which made me crazy. Not one doctor mentioned PCOS, despite it being the leading cause of female infertility. Polycystic ovarian syndrome, or PCOS, is the most common, most overlooked, and most underserved condition affecting women. Neuraura is bringing to market the first effective and widely accessible treatment for PCOS. It draws on the same mechanisms of action proven to be effective in electroacupuncture, but in a convenient, easy-to-use device. Next. So why hasn't this been done before? It's a complex problem and a seemingly simple solution. Well, why Neuraura? Well, our microneedles penetrate the skin just slightly, and they therefore provide a much stronger effect than your typical TENS device. But the electrodes are so tiny, you can't even see them, let alone feel them. This is based on decades of leading expertise in neuroengineering and manufacturing practices from the semiconductor industry. So we have 2 patents at nationalization and a 3rd provisional submitted. Next. My brilliant co-founders, Pierre and Colin, have been working together on our core technology for more than a decade. And we're supported by world-class advisors, including Dr. Steinar Victorin, who is literally the global expert on electrostimulation for PCOS. Next. The current standard of care for the 25% of sufferers able to get a diagnosis is oral contraceptives, with the risk of numerous side effects exacerbated for PCOS sufferers. And some women we talk to, their symptoms are actually worse when they come off the pill than when they went on it. Loop is effective and safe, and it'll be available over the counter without prescription and at a fraction of the cost of, say, acupuncture treatments. It's also complementary to medications that people may already be taking to manage their symptoms. Next. Our absolute fastest route to market is through a predicate code for pain. And our pre-sub with the FDA is actually, the meeting is on Monday. Once in market, we'll progressively expand our market access, escalating our regulatory claims, expanding geographically and securing reimbursement. And then later, bringing out a premium, larger version of the device to support diabetes sufferers. Next. With a razor and blade model and low unit cost of goods sold at scale, Loop has huge commercial potential, as well as significant impact through increased years of quality life, avoided workdays lost, and avoided healthcare costs. Next, please. What we're looking for partners, people who can support us on our mission. Thank you.
All right, so thank you very much for that presentation, Claire. Couple of questions. So can you briefly touch on the history of this technology? Like, how did this emerge?
Do you mean the device or do you mean the electrodes?
Yeah, like the device. Like TENSing has been around for quite some time, but never used in this application. So, you know, just wanted to get some feedback about how did you develop this unique TENS device? And, you know, is it originally designed to treat PCOS?
Yeah, so the difference between treating pain, say, and treating polycystic ovary syndrome is the frequency of the stimulation. So PCOS, you use very low frequency. So all of the work that's been done by Elizabeth in electroacupuncture, very low frequency versus pain. Predicate devices like the Overa and Livia and actually Neuraura out of the UK, they're not cleared from a regulatory perspective to treat PCOS, but they're dancing around the edges of that. But for us, the key difference is the electrodes, because when you use a flat electrode, you've got to overcome the resistance of the skin, which is actually a very effective barrier. And so by just slightly penetrating the outer layers of the dermis, we can get a much greater therapeutic effect.
Okay, thank you. And so the regulatory pathway for this device, then you mentioned that you hope that it would be available over the counter. Is this going to be a wellness device? But then you mentioned some predicate stuff. Or are you trying to do both pathways simultaneously?
So it is a regulated medical device, but the current predicates in pain, it's an over-the-counter code. So it's a class 2 510K, but it's over-the-counter through that pain route. And then obviously once we're in market, we can become our own predicate to expand the claims.
Okay, excellent. And what do you think is the last question here? What do you think is the biggest bottleneck for your technology right now and getting it to market?
It's always money. So, you know, we're doing a pre-seed extension. We're moving extremely quickly. So we're going to be being able to do our preliminary clinical evidence in the next couple of weeks. But really to get to that MVP, that's like a finished product, basically, you know, we do need an injection of capital to get us there. But we're doing this very fast, very lean, and kind of really, you know, talking to sufferers. They really have nothing, right? So we're really highly motivated to get this out to market.
Thanks very much. I'll pass it back to you, Bindi.
Thanks, Claire. Nice recovery. So it's my pleasure to introduce the next company, which is Amira Medical. And Daryl's going to tell us about how he is bringing some rehab therapy into this century. So take it away, Shorty.
Thanks very much. Yeah, hi, everybody. It's Shorty here from Amira Medical Products. I want to take everybody back to that snowboarding accident or the skateboarding accident in the summertime. Or even carpal tunnel and some wrist pain, upper extremity pain. How did you deal with that? Did you go to therapy and play with some rubber bands or some wooden sticks? And like Bindi alluded to, we want to make sure that we're keeping up to speed here with the latest advances in technology. So our product is an upper extremity device. And if I can get my slides to move, that would be fantastic. There we go. So our goal is to mimic everyday tasks. We have a progressive strengthening device that helps therapists measure range of motion and also quantitatively chart their ability to help the patient with those outcomes that are desperately needed to get back to work and function like they would every day. So carpal tunnel, wrist fracture, contractures, all of those things, we were approached by the Glen Rose Hospital to help the therapists improve their surgeries and outcomes. And to do this, they wanted a portable device with no power, no electronics, something they could take from patient to patient to be able to help them exercise and provide that rehabilitation. We started back in 2016, 3D printing and designing and building what the therapists at the Glen Rose Hospital were looking for to help patients like Eric, who was injured in a snowboarding accident. And over the years, we've gone through many, many different types of prototypes and modifications to try and work with a therapist. Like we say, we have a product that is designed by therapists for therapists, and that's first and foremost in everything that we do. Recently, I'll put, the last year, when it was minus 40 that week in Edmonton, my brother-in-law had a tragic accident and lost 9.5 of his fingers. So this is a really personal thing for us. And luckily, he had access to FEPSM and was able to rehabilitate, strengthen, and be able to go back to those things that he, enjoyed doing. So on the bottom right there, you see his recent prosthetics, $32,000 later, and now he's actually able to use that device as basically as an extra, or without even feeling the loss of those limbs there. We've had a really busy 2022. So in March of 2022, we received our patent in the US. We've been on Instagram, and that attracted our distributor in the US. We've actually, now that COVID's gone to some trade shows in the US. We've been to 3 so far. And we also have our second clinical evaluation paper coming out. We're currently showing a 20 times improvement on the current standard of care, which is actually quite sad, to be honest, because there's lots and lots of new technologies that can be used. And our goal is to try and bring that into as many clinics as possible so that we can help people. Where do we sit in the marketplace? So the rubber bands and the sticks, like I was alluding to before, we're at around a $20 price range there. And if you're really rich, you can buy the really expensive $75,000 to $120,000 machine. I believe the University Hospital in Edmonton has one of these, but it hardly gets used because it's a big machine. It's complicated. There's electronics. There's a printer. The therapist wanted something that was lightweight, portable, affordable, and it was versatile enough to start helping the therapist give those tools needed for the patient to regain the strength for those everyday tasks. The market is quite large. So we're currently selling into Canada and the US. We have a class 1 medical device. We're FDA and Health Canada registered. And our goal is to try and take that to that larger market, that international market. So in Canada, we're currently selling directly. In the US, we're going through North Coast Medical, and we've had inquiries from the Netherlands, Singapore, New Zealand, Australia.
I'm going to have to quickly interrupt and let you know we need to wrap up shortly.
Perfect. Okay. So we're currently making money. We're selling product. We have a commercialized product, and our goal is to continue growing. We want to develop our ISO 13485 to enter into the European market with CE, and also develop the prototype that we currently have, which is a class 2 device, which will add electronics and software.
All right, well, thank you very much for the presentation. I will ask a single question. So are there any plans to integrate remote patient monitoring into this system?
Absolutely. So last year in Virginia, we had a therapist that did a case study. She lent her units out to a patient. So we have a horizontal and a vertical unit. She lent those out to a patient, and that patient did their whole entire rehab regime via telehealth. So just like Zoom, because the device has markers on it that you're able to take those measurements and start charting and tabulating them, the therapist was able to see what the range of motion was on the protractor, and also the level of strength, the resistance required, and the type of accessory, and with the number of repetitions. So those 4 data points they were able to actually tabulate and graph and provide that defensible data that's really required in the US with the insurance companies.
All right, excellent. Well, thank you very much. I think we only have time for one question, so I'll pass it back to you, Bindi.
Thank you.
Right. The last one of this block is Zymedyne, and they are also trying to address the opioid crisis through the therapeutic side of things. So Chris, please tell us about what you guys are up to.
Thanks, Kindy. Hello, everyone. Zymedyne's mission is to create a safer, more effective, non-opioid for chronic pain. Now, chronic pain, as you know, is a major problem globally. It is the leading cause of lost productivity due to lost man hours, but it's also one of the leading causes of depression and suicide as well. Unfortunately, the only effective treatment are opioids. I'm sure you've all heard about opioids and the extremely addictive and the serious side. Unfortunately, they're still widely prescribed because there's simply no alternatives. This has created the opioid crisis, and the numbers here are staggering, but they don't even scratch the surface of the families and loved ones who are also affected. That's why we desperately need a safer, more effective, non-addictive treatment. And that's where Zymedyne comes in. Our technology is very simple. There are human proteins called channels there are, the more pain you feel. And what our drugs do is inhibit the mechanism, so there's less channels, less pain. Pretty simple, right? We have full patents on both this mechanism and on families of drugs that target this mechanism. Our value proposition is our drugs are going to be safer, more effective, and above all, non-addictive. The benefits to society is that we're not only going to reduce this opioid dependency and dramatically improve the quality of life for pain sufferers and their caregivers as well. As for the competition, we've already mentioned the opioids, but the other medications are either not effective or have serious side effects as well. But they're also old technology. There hasn't been a new pain therapeutic in over 20 years, so they've lost patent protection and generics now dominate the market. There are small pharma like us, but most are trying to reinvent the opioid wheel or are targeting proteins crucial to other physiological processes and therefore prone to side effects as well. As for big pharma, we see them as partners, and this is the business model they prefer. Big pharma look to partner with companies like Zymedyne, who've already done the heavy lifting of the R&D phase and getting those drugs to phase 1. Then they take over and do what they do, and that's get the drug to market. The money from this licensing deal will help Zymedyne become sustainable, develop new pipelines, and get us to IPO. The global pain market, as you can imagine, is absolutely huge. It's over $50 billion a year, and chronic pain accounts for over half this market. Not only that, but a third of the population is going to experience chronic pain over their lifespan. And since our population is rapidly aging, this market is undoubtedly going to continue to grow. So where is Zymedyne on the path? Well, we've developed our lead compounds already, and they're just as effective as opioids in our animal models of pain. And crucially, they show no apparent side effects or addiction qualities. We've raised over $1.5 million so far in mostly non-dilutable funding in just under 2 years. And we are now currently preparing our lead compounds for preclinical development and to do independent pharma and toxicology studies. After this, we prepare for clinical trials, and we're just starting to get to that stage now. Throughout the entire process, we're going to continue to seek partnerships to help complete these phases and, of course, reach that pot of gold licensing agreement. So what's our ask? We're looking for financing and partnerships to complete the preclinical stages and to get us to and through phase 1 clinical trials. We have a tremendous team of scientists and experts that are going to help us get there. And you can find out more about them on our website at zymedyne.ca. Thanks very much for listening. If you have any questions, now's the time.
Thanks very much for that presentation. I think we all learned a bit about how impactful the opioid crisis has been, and it's great to see companies trying to address that. I wanted to ask, could these drugs be also used as anti-inflammatories, or do they have anti-inflammatory properties?
Yeah, we've actually used animal models of inflammation as well, and the drugs that we're using seem to be very effective in that also. So there's a possibility there for things like, arthritis and things like that. And indeed, there are research that shows that the target protein that we're looking at is dramatically upregulated in those diseases as well, and including other diseases like MS as well. So it's very possible that these drugs will help with those.
Okay, and would the indication for these drugs be at a higher level than current over-the-counter pharmaceuticals, or would they be similar in terms of like, you know, acute, minor to moderate pain, but just less, you know, they don't need to be from moderate to severe because they're less addictive. Could they be broadly applicable for, you know, minor pain?
That's a question. Our indications are that this works in the more severe chronic and neuropathic pain models. You know, we're not trying to reinvent the aspirin if that's the question. However, it's very possible. We believe one of our other pipelines is developing a biomarker for pain, because as you know, pain is very subjective, and you know, for you could be pain level 8 for me and vice versa. So we believe together with this technology, we're developing a biomarker that will actually help to sort of ascertain which patients our drugs are going to benefit most for.
Perfect. And last question, what is the use case that you see this being most valuable in? Like, where would your drug be most commonly prescribed?
It's probably going to be most commonly prescribed. We hope it to be a sort of alternative to opioids, and a lot of opioids, of course, are prescribed in hospital settings and so on and so forth. And that's the kind of position that would be. But again, for our business model, we'll be licensing our technology and our proprietary IP to Big Pharma, and Big Pharma will probably ultimately make that decision.
Perfect. Thank you very much for your questions, and I'll pass it back to you, Adrian, I think.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Bindi and Amit. So you pass it on to me, Amit, but it's all good. I will be Adrian for this time. So this is so much fun. I cannot believe that we have been listening to pitches for more than 1 hour. And each and every one of them has been so exciting and so interesting. Alberta and Prairies, the innovations are wonderful, but we have more exciting innovations coming our way for the next round. We have Zach Storms from Startup TNT as our investor Q&A. And this session is going to be co-hosted by Shane Virani, the program manager for W21C at the University of Calgary. The floor is all yours, Zach and Shane.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Paramita. Like you said, I'm so excited to be here. I think it has been a phenomenal event thus far, and I'm so excited for our next round of pitches. Before we get into them, I just want to tell you everyone a little bit about W21C. W21C is a health system research center with the primary goal of making care better. We provide research support services to companies who are bringing new products and services to market to improve patient safety and quality of care. Our team includes expertise on clinical trials, human factors, human-centered design, and a variety of different quantitative, qualitative, and mixed method analyses. We love engaging in the ecosystem, and we hope to work with a bunch of companies here in Alberta and a bunch of companies here pitching tonight. So without further ado, let me introduce the first company of this block, Mosaic Sensors. Mosaic Sensors develop portable analytical testing equipment for the human health and environmental sectors. Their purpose is to make high-performance sensing technology available to those that need them the most. And to tell us more, here is Michael Serpy. Michael, over to you.
Okay, thank you. So my name is Mike Serpy. I'm the founder and CEO of Mosaic Sensors and also professor of chemistry here at the University of Alberta. So the liquid analysis industry is vibrant, multi-billion-dollar industry where Mosaic's really focused on liquids that need to be analyzed in the agriculture space, health space, and the water industry. And our company is looking to empower users with our unique platform for testing any and all liquid parameters, we call these analytes, that are important to them. The current sensing space is dominated by lab-based methodologies. Those are usually high cost and slow, and they're also limited in their capabilities. We all know these home testing kits now that we've been through COVID. And these home testing kits are really nice. They're inexpensive, usually easy to use, but they're inaccurate. They can't test for multiple analytes and samples, and they're not quantitative. And both have data management problems. So just to make the point more clear, we're all familiar with these rapid tests for COVID. They're great because they're inexpensive, they're specific, and we can get a result fast, but they're not sensitive, and they require us to manipulate our samples, doing nose swabs and so on. Lab-based tests are great. They're sensitive. We can look for multiple analytes and multiple different kinds of samples, but those techniques are expensive. It's a logistical problem, as well as the results are delayed. Our solution is shown here. So these colored tiles in the background are what we call etalons. You can see they're colored, and we can make these colored tiles change color in response to the presence of various analytes and their concentrations to get a selective, specific, and real-time sensing. This is what an etalon is. We have the patent on the structure. So importantly, there's a gel sandwiched between two metal layers that affords it color. And like I show here in this video, the color can change depending on what these little tiles are exposed to. Importantly, though, the chemistry of the gels can be modified such that we can detect multiple different analytes, whether they're biological analytes or, for example, heavy metals and water. So this is really a platform technology. We have the patents on this technology. We have a prototype that we developed with Keystone Labs to make affordable in situ and real-time sensing. These are the markets we're interested in. And we're going to basically operate on this Nespresso model of use the sensor, throw it away, or recycle it and buy a new one. And we will sell cartridges. Our initial market is cannabis market. And finally, Mosaic isn't just focused on etalons, but we're innovating in other spaces. Quickly, we have this device that we can use a glucose strip to detect almost any analyte that we're interested in. So that's all I have to say. We're looking for investment to build manufacturing capabilities primarily. So thanks.
Michael.
Yeah.
Great presentation. Love this technology. Very, very cool. I'm going to ask two quick questions. What's the sensitivity of this technology relative to the standards that are out there?
Yeah, so we've done some testing on estradiol and progesterone in samples where we can get down to picogram per mil levels. We are sensitive to microgram levels of THC, for example. So it depends on the actual application.
And why did you start? Why are you picking cannabis as the initial target market? Why cannabis?
Yeah, we like cannabis. Because we have a customer. I was trying to make a joke, but anyway. Yeah, so we have a customer that wants to buy these sensors immediately. So that's the initial target market.
Okay, market pull. That's great. Listen, we're going to leave it here. We're just at 5 minutes. Thanks, Michael. I'll hand it back to Shane for the next presenter. I'm going to throw some more questions in the chat for you, though.
Thank you, Zach. Up to bat next is BioMimir. BioMimir is on a mission to bring the promise of biomaterial-assisted regenerative medicine to patients worldwide by supporting universal, equitable access to healthcare globally. And I can't wait to learn more. So Fiona Simpson, please tell me more.
Yes. Thank you so much for that warm introduction. So I'm a regenerative medicine researcher by training, and I was fortunate enough to do my PhD in a group that develops amazing biomaterials technology. But I was really frustrated that these technologies weren't being commercialized. They weren't making the jump from our research universities to patients who badly need them. So my team and I founded BioMimir in order to truly commercialize regenerative medicine solutions. This is just your brief warning that I'm going to show you some medical images. So I'd like you to meet Mrs. H. Mrs. H is an 89-year-old woman, and she's fortunate enough to live with her 62-year-old sister in their very own house. But Mrs. H is a very medically complicated person. She has dementia, she has type 2 diabetes, she has pulmonary disease, among other issues. She's fortunate enough to be supported by a personal support worker, but the other day when she was going to have a bath with assistance, unfortunately, she fell. And she incurred 2 absolutely horrible wounds to her arm and to her leg. These wounds are called skin tears. And so skin tears are an acute traumatic injury, but they're also a form of complex wound. They're caused mostly in people of advancing age due to fragile skin, due to falls, medical transport, medical equipment, even removing and replacing bandages for pre-existing wounds. They're really common in home care, long-term care, and palliative care. This type of wound is especially challenging because of the fragility of the skin. So there's a lot of conventional wound care mechanisms that just aren't going to be effective here. You can't use sutures, you can't use staples, you can't really use even a lot of normal adhesive bandages, because when you remove them to clean the wound or to change the dressing, you risk doing more damage to these patients. And because they're such large open wounds, they're at a super high risk of secondary infection. Mimir Wound Repair is a liquid to solid hydrogel filler, and it was designed to be a single permanent implantable device. Because it's a liquid, it can take any shape of any size of wound. And what it does is it allows us to protect a wound, so it has a mechanical barrier that is infection resistant and protects that wound. And it also has a regenerative matrix that is anti-inflammatory that allows people to heal at home. So people are able to go on with their daily life, get their quality of life back, and heal on their own timeline. In our preclinical study, we were able to show significant improvements in decreased inflammation in wound repair and 20% greater closure 2 weeks post-surgery. Our team of scientists and medical advisors has a lot of experience in the wound care space, in both, actual wound clinics and emergency medicine. And we're about 2 years out from our FDA 510(k) approval for launch into the American market. We're supported by a number of amazing partners, including Innovate Calgary and Creative Destruction Labs. And we're currently raising about $800,000 in pre-seed capital, and we are so close. So we hope you'd like to help us change the standard for wound care. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Fiona. Great presentation. Listen, why don't you tell us a little bit more about what you're raising money for and what you're trying to accomplish over the next 12 to 24 months?
So we're really in the thrust of doing our preclinical studies in comparison to our predicate device so that we can go to the FDA and ask for our classification and make sure that they approve our large animal studies. So this is really about prototype development. It's about quality control, quality assurance, quality management system building.
And Fiona, what differentiates this wound care technology from some of the other options that are out there? We've seen just, at the Life Sciences Summit, we've seen a few companies in the general wound care space.
So, I think everybody in the prairies knows Nanotest, and Nanotest does fantastic work in controlling infection. But that's the primary function there. That's a gel that you reapply. Honestly, these are kind of synergistic technologies with infection control mechanisms. If I had a wound like this, I would want both. Because this is physical mechanical protection. It's going to let you walk out of a clinic. You're going to be able to move. This is elastic. It's compressible. You're going to be able to go about your daily life and heal on your own timeline. And that's something that's lacking in a lot of the current bandage or other options on the market today. Okay, one final question. How many people do you think could be using this device on an annual basis, or this wound care product on an annual basis? So in just skin tears, there's 1.9 million people per year in the United States alone. If you expand this to other forms of complex wounds, globally, that's about 15.9 million people.
Awesome. Thanks so much, Fiona. Great presentation, and I'll hand it back to Shane.
Awesome. Thank you, Fiona and Zach. Our next pitcher is Devin Livingstone from Alethea Medical. Alethea helps family physicians connect with medical specialists to treat patients in one day instead of weeks, months, or even years. Devin, please tell us more.
Hi there, I'm Devin Livingstone, the Chief Medical Officer and founder of Alethea Medical, where we help you get specialist advice lightning fast and eliminate medical wait times. For most patients, referrals to a specialist can take months or years. The time to treatment has grown almost 250% over the last 3 decades, and that's only gotten worse with COVID. If you have an issue your doctor can't resolve, they currently fax a referral to a specialist like myself. That referral might say something similar to "please say patient," and can lack important details that make all the difference in terms of triage and time to treatment. Without that information, your referral is added to the bottom of our increasing backlog, during which you continue to suffer and your medical condition could get worse. Alethea is a software as a service platform that enables physicians to treat patients in one day. With Alethea, if your GP has an issue, they can consult our specialists who respond within 24 hours. Specialists can respond quickly and with precision because they have access to digital images, videos, and other rich clinical data to more accurately diagnose and triage patients remotely. Doctors provide better care through our platform because they can actually have a conversation about a given patient and easily collaborate. Around 70% of the time, a specialist can begin treatment without needing to see you, so you can start treatment now. We have over 300 physicians and 27 specialties represented on our platform, and our revenue is up 50% since the summer. In the last 3 years, we've gone from zero to over $110,000 per month in gross revenue. With investment over the next 3 years, we expect to grow to over $5 million a month with a break even by the end of the second quarter of 2023. Our platform holds massive potential to change how patients flow through our medical system, keeping in mind that there are over 14 million referrals a year in Canada and over 240 million in the US. Referral requests have actually increased 159% over the past 10 years. But with our platform, well over half of those referrals could be eliminated or remotely managed, saving our healthcare system millions, allowing specialists to see the right patient at the right time, and preventing significant patient suffering due to excessive wait times. We've built a great company with amazing staff and expert advisors that have deep medical, technical, and business expertise. I'm a head and neck surgeon and a world expert in the application of AI to medicine. Stephen is an experienced global leader in technology, healthcare, and sales. Heiko is a veteran leader in software and product delivery, as well as building startups. And Evan has built and exited 2 companies for over 160 million. We're raising 2 million so we can accelerate growth and position ourselves to expand into the US market. Thanks for your time.
Thank you, Devin. Nice tight pitch. Hey, listen, let's talk a little bit more about your technology, because I know there's a few things going on here, but I am aware that some of your products are actually class 2 medical devices. So do you want to just maybe elaborate a little bit about that technology?
Yeah, speaking specifically to the artificial intelligence computer vision prediction. So, an electronic consultation platform, of course, is not beholden to those types of classification schemes. Our digital otoscope, we have an MDEL for that. It's a class 1 device, really everywhere. But the computer vision, you're right, especially with the new software as a medical device classification, we need to get our full approval for that, which we're working towards. So until we can fully unleash the product out in the wild and market it also as a diagnostic tool, we simply have to have a nice disclaimer, and it's just additional prediction at the point of care right now. So that's the computer vision. We're leveraging AI to improve workflow for specialists responding to consultations. So it's not just using it as a diagnostic or prediction tool. It's also just to improve the process. And that's where our main value is really delivered in that process optimization.
Okay, and how are you onboarding physicians? Tell us about your sort of customer acquisition costs or just general onboarding strategy for new physicians.
Yeah, it was tough over COVID. Initially, we're going clinic to clinic, and you couldn't really give them lunch anymore too. And so what we've changed now too is really a virtual process. So we've streamlined that, and it's really helped our ability to scale, and is going to be huge for scaling across other provinces as well, which is really our next step within Canada. So get that situation completely dialed in, and we can expand to the US from there.
Okay, Devin, I think I'm going to end it here, but I encourage you to answer Bindy's question in the chat, which is there a public list of all the GPs using your platform right now that people can access?
Oh, I love that, Bindy. Yeah, we've had a bunch of people get enrolled in the platform because their patients actually came to their family doctor. So we don't have that list. I guess we'd have to ask the doctors if they're okay with that. But you can see all the specialists. They're all listed on our website, aletheamedical.com.
Okay. Thanks, everybody. Thanks, Devin. And we'll throw it back to Shane.
Awesome. Our next company is one that I've personally had the pleasure of working with, and it's LyfeMD. LyfeMD's subscription-based digital platform provides evidence-based solutions to help manage life-altering chronic digestive diseases. Lorraine, the floor is yours to tell us more.
Thanks so much, and thanks for the pleasure of being here today. My name is Dr. Lorian Taylor. I'm a registered dietitian and the CEO and co-founder of LyfeMD. LyfeMD is an app-based digital platform to help the 40% of the population who suffers from a digestive disease. To understand what a digestive disease means, I wanted to put it in the words of our patients. So it means such intense stomach pain and cramping that you can't go to work. It means breaking a bone because you're malabsorbing nutrients for so many years. Being told over and over again that your pain is all in your head. Feeling terrified that your medication, that you're going to have to stop your medication because your colon is going to become diseased again. Or for one of our users, a pilot, going to the bathroom so urgently while he's working and seeing blood in the toilet. You can imagine the tremendous cost this has for both the patient and the healthcare system. LyfeMD helps to solve this problem in addition to being added to standard medical care. Patients use our self-guided digital programs to significantly improve their physical and mental health. We provide one-on-one in-app coaching supports, as well as digital health consults that provide an additional revenue stream. To give you an example, when LyfeMD is added to the medication used to treat inflammatory bowel disease, we see over 91% symptom improvement, as well as increased time on medication. This means that that picture of that healthy colon stays longer. For just even one of our pharmaceutical partners, this translates into $93 million of increased revenue in Canada every year. And this is why we've been successful by selling to pharmaceutical companies and pharmacy chains subscriptions that are then distributed to patients at no cost. We have established market traction with renewed contracts with Fresenius Kabi, Pfizer, and Organon. This year, we've partnered with an international distributor, and we are the only lifestyle application to be supported by these patient and healthcare professional organizations. We have got here because we have an incredible, committed team. We have demonstrated both entrepreneurial as well as product development success. My two co-founders, who are two gastroenterologists, and myself have over 60 years of clinical experience in the GI and liver fields and over 300 scientific publications exploring the role of lifestyle therapy in chronic disease. Our current raise is $750K on a convertible note. We have raised 210 of this and are looking for another 540 to continue the development of our sales and our marketing strategies as well as product. Thank you, and I'm very interested to talk to anyone who is interested in our company.
Thank you, Lorian. Great presentation. Hey, why don't we start also with your unique software that you're developing? I know that you're actually building a software as a medical device component to this technology as well. Maybe help us educate us a little bit on how that works and what you guys are doing there.
Yeah, so right now we're running clinical trials where we're able to show predictive algorithms that can predict response to diet in terms of combining patients, numerous different touch points of the patient. So microbiome, metabolomics, mental health. And then what we're trying to do is then be able to predict whether or not people will respond to diet, what type of fiber they respond to, whether they won't respond to diet, and they need some other type of symbiotic treatment to get their gut in order so that they can then respond favorably to an anti-inflammatory type of diet program.
Okay, thanks, Lorian. And how about let's talk about your target customer? It seems like you could be taking a direct-to-consumer model if you want to, B2C, or a B2B model where you're partnering with clinics and pharmaceutical companies. Tell us a little bit about the strategy around that.
Yeah, thanks. No, we've had a lot of success with our pharmaceutical partners because the biologic drug spend, which is the medication that many of our beachhead marketed inflammatory bowel diseases on, is extremely expensive and will eventually stop working. So it's been a good model for us because we're able to show an extension of the effectiveness of this medication. And that has a huge impact for the patient because then again, they're able to keep their intestine healthier for longer.
Okay, thanks you, Lauren. I think we'll end it there. I want to thank everyone. I have to jump out for a few minutes. I have to go join our friends over at AgTech. I will be back soon. I'll hand it back to our friend Shane, and I'll see you guys all in a little bit. Thanks so much for letting me be the Q&A, Adrian.
I guess I'll hand it maybe actually. Adrian, are you stepping in for Paramita? Then go ahead.
Oh, it's me here. Okay, man, this has been this has been amazing. I love it. We have 3 more companies left. But before we get to the last group of pitches, I do need to take a moment to just give a few shout outs. I know that I'm keeping you from them, but I need to mention CBRE. I mean, CBRE was our first best friend forever sponsor of Startup TNT. And if anyone in the audience tonight is thinking about getting their first lease, looking for a new space, or our friends at the CBRE will happily give you a primer on lease contracts and proceed with options. They couldn't be here tonight. That's why I'm telling you about them, and I might be happy to introduce you to them. They helped us review our leases when we were looking at a new space ourselves. And then one last thing, and certainly this is one of my favorites. I need to give a big shout out. I don't know if you guys know, but we do accept bar tab donations for the after parties. And there's some names I'm going to read out here. I'll go quickly. Pretty much, I'm going to go fast. Tim Lin, co-founder of Startup TNT. Zach Storms, co-founder of Startup TNT. Hassan from our Regina group at TNT. Gloria from our Winnipeg TNT group. Jesse, I think you're seeing a theme here, also from our Saskatoon TNT, and myself and Neil from Calgary. That's just the TNT guys. Then we also have Crystal Phillips, Thin Air Labs, one of our organizing partners. Thank you, Crystal. Stephanie Bailey, one of our organizing partners on the clean tech side. Thank you very much. We also have Mark Lee Wilson from the Hydrogen Hub and Transition Accelerator, and 3 more anonymous donors. Thank you, everyone. It's not too late to donate at all. You can donate at the venue in your city. I did say I was going to post up the details. I'll do that right now, where we're going to be. That's where the after parties are. You can donate there, or you can donate at Cheers. Tim, maybe you type it in. Cheers at startuptnt.com. You can e-transfer, and we will give you a shout out in our newsletter. And from that is now, I'm gonna pass it over to Paramita, and thanks everyone for your time.
Thank you, Adrian. It seems that we are changing our names over this. This is what the, TNT is all about. Thank you so much to all the beer sponsors. And as Adrian mentioned, we have come to the final pitches of the evening. So everyone, please join me in welcoming Daryl Petrus, Vice President, Programs and Business Development at Edmonton Unlimited, as our last co-host for the Life Sciences Investment Summit Top 20 Pitch Night. And we will be joined by Crystal Phillips for Thin Air Labs, who is going to do the final Q&As for the night. Take it away, Daryl and Crystal.
Thank you so much, Paramita. I heard it's never too late to donate. I love that tagline. That's going to stick with me. That's great. All right, I want to take a little bit of time here to share what Edmonton Unlimited is doing to serve the entrepreneurial community. So, as Paramita mentioned, my name is Daryl Petrus. I'm Edmonton Unlimited's Vice President, Programs and Business Development. And we are here to serve our community of innovators and help elevate Edmonton as a global innovation capital. We deliver free programs to support tech entrepreneurs and companies at any stage of development. I like to say from napkin to traction and beyond. We're currently serving startups, post-secondary spinoffs, and growth companies through cohort-based learning and coaching. We hire experts to help companies reach their next milestone. We run a pre-accelerator called Alberta Catalyzer with Platform Calgary. And we will soon launch our first Capital City Pilots Challenges, where we will match municipal challenges with companies that can provide solutions. Check us out at edmontonunlimited.com, and we look forward to also welcoming everyone to visit our new space, and that is a physical space, new building, downtown when we open in the spring. Now, of course, we don't do this alone. We receive support from municipal government, federal government, provincial government, Edmonton Regional Innovation Network, and Alberta Innovates. And we support others like, of course, Startup TNT and their investment summits. Speaking of which, let's get back to our companies. So next up, we have Arun Narendran with Teresagenics Pharma, who is working on something that resonates with each one of us, I'm sure, childhood cancers. Arun, over to you.
Thank you, Daryl. My name is Arun Narendran. I'm a kids cancer doctor and a researcher at the University of Calgary, and I'm also the founder and CEO of Teresagenics that focuses on the discovery of new cancer drugs for currently incurable cancers in children. That's about 400 kids in Canada every year who are told to go home and die because we don't have any treatment for their cancers. So a long time ago, when I was a trainee at Sick Kids in Toronto, I had to take care of a little baby with a lethal brain tumor. And this project started with the question the mother asked me, "What do you mean you don't have a treatment for my kid?" So I made a commitment and a promise. So that's what I'm going to talk to you about today. So we worked on this tumor for a long time after I came to Calgary, and we figured it out that the tumor is caused by an abnormal protein that binds and blocks a key natural defense against cancer that we all have. And there's no biological reason for this protein to show up. It's just pure random act of violence. So we decided to play the same game. So what we did was we used computer modeling technology and bioinformatics to design a drug that will bind to this protein just like a key into a lock and block his activity. So when we tested this drug in the petri dish and in animal, we show activity, and most importantly, there were no toxicity because this drug went after that abnormal protein only that's found only in the cancer cells. So this is a rare pediatric cancer. When we looked at the large database, we found a number of adult cancers also use this pathway. It's about 150,000 patients in North America, and we spend about $3 billion on treating these patients on using unsuccessful treatments. As far as we know, there are no other drugs currently available that target this pathway. We got a full patent on the drug and manufacturing and all the indications. So where are we now? We've finished the discovery, we finished the preclinical studies, and we are working on the approvals, and most importantly, doing the phase 1 clinical trial. So where we are, the large pharmaceutical companies, we have great interest to them. This also brings in the opportunity for partnership, licensing, and acquisition for our company. So we are looking for investment of about $2 million, and we hope to raise $2 million from philanthropy and funding agencies to do the very first clinical trial that will cost about $4 million in cost. So the valuation, we looked at similar drug development programs that after the preclinical studies will be sold to about $100 to $200 million in the past. So personally, what do I want? I just don't want to say no to a parent who is asking my help. Thank you so much.
Wow, thank you. Very inspiring. I came late to the game, so I missed some of the earlier pitches, which were no doubt equally inspiring, but wow, it's just such a good reminder of why I love working in the health system. Hi, everyone. I'm Crystal from Thin Air Labs, and I'm the health lead. About half of our sector agnostic fund is health related. So super fascinating work and great presentation. Loved the knowledge translation. I'm curious, with the $2 to $4 million in equity non-dilutive, what do you plan to use those funds towards?
So initially, we would like to do some large animal studies, and then we will be working on getting the approvals. But most importantly, the phase 1 clinical trials costs money. So Tom Baker Cancer Center has some grants that we'll be able to get, philanthropy like the Kids Cancer Care Foundation of Alberta willing to fund. So the money we raise will go purely to do an effective phase 1 clinical trial, because with that result, we'll be in a completely different stage with the large pharmaceutical companies for licensing or acquisition, or getting this drug to the patients as soon as we can.
Love that motto. And I mean, $2 to $4 million isn't a lot of money, relatively speaking, with drug trials. How are you able to be so efficient with the funds?
So we are working with the adult oncologists at Tom Baker, That's what I do for a living. I'm a phase 1 clinical trialist for children for the past 20 years. So we will pick the number about 20 patients, especially testicular cancer patients. When they become resistant or fail the initial treatment, they have no treatment left for them. And we know this pathway is 100% active in these patients. So we'll be able to get 10 patients as a proof of concept to test mostly the toxicity and get the initial data. The toxicity data already complete in animals show that, like I mentioned, it does not affect other parts of the body or normal cells.
Wow.
But we have to do that study.
Talk about impact. And when I looked at the little graphs of the tumor, it's not shrinking, but does it go away?
Oh, no, it does go away. Interestingly, what you see is the scar tissue. It really blew my technician off because the first time we have seen that complete shrinkage of the tumor. So there I showed data from 4 mice, and the 4 mice, they all started with the same size tumor. 4 of them got, they were randomized, 4 of them got the drug, 4 doses, and the others got the placebo or DMS. So then we sacrificed them and took the tumor and measured them, photographed them.
Wow. One quick question to finish off here. Who knows what the human trial results will look like, but is the market size for anyone with a cancer tumor potentially, like, could you see it in other types of cancers, in adults, any other markets?
Yeah, so the preclinical studies, so even though I'm a pediatric oncologist, I went and got all these adult tumors, the breast cancer, the prostate, and the testicular cancer tissues, and we did the complete study and showed that yes, the drug is, so the drug doesn't care as long as the protein is there, it goes after it. So and also it's very difficult to do pediatric phase 1 clinical trials because of the regulations and so on. But recently the US Congress passed a law called the RACE Act, where every company has to do X number of pediatric clinical trials. So we have Pfizer and Novartis who are interested because they just want to get that out of the way for FDA. So that indirectly brings us the market to do both pediatric and adult clinical trials in a very cost-effective way.
Yeah, I know that's another good.
Sorry, let's take the questions in the chat. Wonderful conversation. Thank you, Arun. Wonderful presentation. Thank you, Crystal, for the questions. We're going to have to move on here to our next presenter. And our next presenter is addressing a hot and emerging space, psychedelics for mental health. The topic is everywhere right now. It's in the research, it's in the media, and now it's at the Life Sciences Summit. Over to you, Angus Taylor with MedPlant Science.
You're on mute.
Let's start with an unmute, shall we? My name is Angus Taylor, CEO of MedPlant Science. I lead a company that's developing medications from psychedelic compounds. We're doing this in a couple of different ways. In one, we are fully licensed in the Caribbean to work actually with all psychedelic compounds, whether they be synthetically derived or extracted from plants or fungi. That facility will supply regionally both active ingredient for therapeutic treatment as well as the training of therapists in their sort of last mile training. We are also developing a best-in-class psychedelic medicine delivery platform. This is the application of nano-encapsulation technology, which makes these compounds more predictable in the speed at which the onset happens, as well as enhanced bioavailability, which makes these drugs cheaper. And the facility in St. Vincent also double acts as a training center for new therapists, as really what we have going forward is Not enough therapists in the industry at the end of the day. Enormous demand. Mental health conditions globally are shockingly large in terms of those that are afflicted, and the cost of business in terms of lost days, insurable days, is over $1 trillion a year. At the end of the day, the therapists involved are all psychotherapists. These are supervised treatments, and they take numerous hours to undertake. So simply the expansion of the industry is going to be constrained by the efficiency of the therapists that we have and the number of them at the that are practicing. So our solution is to apply technologies that make these drugs work faster. Imagine that in a therapeutic environment where a clinician could be waiting up to 2 hours for the onset of medications, how expensive those treatments get with a very highly paid professional sitting next to the patient. And then also we have access to legal jurisdictions. So I'm sure everyone's aware that these compounds are being descheduled globally, but at a different pace depending on which country they are around the world. And in the Caribbean, we're lucky that there's been a lot of interest in governments there with the synergies that they see around travel for medical purposes and treatments abroad. Briefly, the technology works by wrapping very tiny spheres around particles of active ingredient, less than 100 nanometers in width, that allows their transition through epithelial cells to be very quick. And so the medications we're developing will be sublingual or mucosal absorbed, which of course mean that you avoid first pass metabolism, and they're absorbed directly to the bloodstream. Likewise, the market is enormous as we plot the descheduling of these countries into the future. That's sort of best guess as to which countries we think are going to be interested first. And we're always surprised by that to some degree, as Australia just last week indicated that they are the first country in the world to legalize these treatments. Very exciting news. It wasn't my first guess, I'll be honest with you there.
Angus, I'll ask you to wrap it up, please.
No problem. Our raise is $1.5 million US on an open safe with a 20% discount, as well as a breakout financing for the facility in St. Vincent. In terms of our use of proceeds, we expect to take this raise through the end of a phase 1 clinical trial. Before that, pharmacokinetic study, and then later after this phase 1, we'll be looking at other regulatory submissions for other substances like ketamine. I guess I could some revenues. We should be fast revenue this year. And I guess I'll leave it perhaps for questions at this point.
Sorry, I guess appreciated the additional information there on the screen. Turn it over to Crystal. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks so much. Again, great knowledge translation on this. You described your moat a little bit with the nano encapsulation, but I'm curious, how do you separate yourself from the competition, seeing as though this is such a rapidly growing space?
So one is that the medications that are moving through trial, especially for psilocybin, are being done so with traditional oral pathways as their mechanism for absorption. So for one thing, I'd touch on bioavailability. If you swallow something, only a portion of the active ingredient swallowed actually gets absorbed into the bloodstream. As little as 20% of psilocybin is actually absorbed into serum. So with our technology, we think that twice the active ingredient will be absorbed, thus less of it is necessary. So we offer a clear advantage from a long-term cost savings perspective. And that is also translated into the savings in time on onset. So rather than a clinician having to wait hours for medications to begin their work, the onset is very fast, thus a clinician could see more patients. So we think we're a better medication in general compared to our peers.
Nice. And any health risk with that that you know of?
The psychedelic medications thus far appear to be very safe. Psilocybin in particular has got very low addictive properties. And
sorry, I just meant being able to absorb it quicker.
Oh yes, well, the point of the PK study is actually to match blood serum levels with a traditional swallowed dose. So that's exactly the point of that science work, is to get equivalency in a blood serum perspective. So by the time it's in the blood, it's really the same as a swallowed dose. We just deliver it faster.
Thank you. 2 minutes goes by so fast. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Chris. You're absolutely right. Thank you, Angus.
Thank you.
So I'm proud to say the next company has been through Edmonton 11 programming and is making huge strides in bringing their biomarker detection platform, not just technology, platform to market. I'm pleased to turn it over to John Murphy at Qualisure Diagnostics.
Thanks, Daryl. Can you guys hear me okay? Just a thumbs up and
yep.
And you can see that slide deck. Okay, thanks. So yeah, I'm John Murphy. I'm the CEO here at BioStream. And you know, I guess during the pandemic, it became really obvious that people could literally die waiting for test results from a centralized lab, and that was jarring to me. And maybe because I had a team that could do something about it, but we started talking to, ER physicians and remote clinics, and they said, but if we're going to talk about point of care and get a real point of care test, it's got to be really work well. And what does work well mean? What they said is it's got to be accurate. It's got to be as good as a lab result. It's got to be fast, 5 minutes, and it's got to be really low cost. It's got to be portable. And it's got to be for more than one test. So we developed technology that is a reader and a consumable to do just that. Now, that became possible when we developed this new type of transistor, okay? And this has a semiconductor on it that's designed specifically to work with human cells. BARDA, in the US government, they said, hey, that's great, but could you do 4 tests or diseases at one time? So we developed a multiplex. So you see, researchers around the world, they already have biomarkers, but we need to be able to take those biomarkers and just attach them to our transistor. And we can do that. See, we've already got the device, and we've got the biosensors, and now we've got the instructions, which is pretty simple, but we give that now to any lab, and in 8 weeks, they can add their own biomarker to our transistor and develop their own test. So also these researchers, while they're developing their test and they own the IP, we can give them support on manufacturing and commercialization. So when you think about it, every test that's developed here in the world works on any reader that's sold in the world. And now every reader that we've got has built-in Bluetooth. So all the data is already coming up to our lab. We know all about cloud services and analytics. And so we leverage that as well here. So that's all working. So I can show data that kind of shows that this works. We've got, but right now we're putting together a research kit that I could send out to people like the University of Maryland, because they want to take our 4-plex and they want to put on sexually transmitted diseases. I sent our reader to Cambridge and the world expert in OECT technologies, and he said, wow, this is like absolutely great. And then I'll just tell you, I had dinner with the CEO of the World Health Innovation Summit. And this is Gareth, and he just raised $17 billion. And it's interesting because our platform and our technology and our global scale align very much to what he's thinking. So we're also doing some of our own tests in our lab. We're doing some pre-diabetes, a panel, and infectious diseases. And then we're doing a project on water pathogens as well. There's multi-billion-dollar industries here. The revenue is really initially in the biosensors.
John,
but there's a lot of value.
Up shortly.
Oh, okay. And there's so the team, I've run companies, successfully exits. Our CEO, Harvard on oncology in the UK, enterprise stuff. Our chairman of the board is Al Berkeley, former president of NASDAQ, former executive director of the World Economic Forum. He helps us think globally, and he also introduces us to friends like Gareth. So we're looking for $2 million to get us the sustainable revenue, a 510K, and some volume manufacturing. So with that, if there's time for a question, we'll take that.
Hey, John, thank you so much. Quick question. Well, not a quick question. It's probably a 10-hour discussion, but your regulatory pathway, what does that look like?
Yeah, so the first thing we're looking at, we've also done CRP on this C-reactive protein. So we're going to use that with our device and just run through a 510K. And I know that sounds like a me too, because CRP is already out there, but then this becomes a predicate device for ourselves and every other test thereafter.
And how focused are you on sort of the pathway for the experience as opposed to the actual product? Because this is really disruptive to the whole process of how we do lab testing and get our results.
Yeah, well, that's right. So the first thing is to look at point of care applications where there already is, clinical utility is clear and there's reimbursement codes. So that's already kind of started in certain areas. So that becomes a bit of a priority because and then in other jurisdictions, that's not so important. So we're looking at that as well.
Okay, thank you so much.
Okay.
Thanks, Crystal, and thanks, John. Wonderful presentation, John. And now it's back over to Adrian. I believe that's the last one of the evening.
Yeah, I'm just going to jump in unscheduled to announce a few of our last-minute bar tab donators. Thank you very much for your support. Some of you are on the call here. We have Mike Serpi from Mosaic Sensors, not just here to pitch, also here to donate and support the ecosystem. Thank you very much. We also have Prairie Vertical Farms from our ag tech has donated as well. So thank you so much to them. I think I forgot to mention Chris Patterson from Tall Grass Ventures, also in the ag tech organizing partner list. Thank you. Someone else here, we had Jennifer Billisberger, can't make it tonight, but sends in some bar tab donation anyways. Thank you so much. We really, really appreciate the support. Again, you can donate at the events, but thank you so much for helping us to have a great night tonight. And with that, I'm going to pass it back to Gloria to wrap it up, and I'll see you guys at the after parties.
Oh, thanks, Adrian. And you can see up on the slide where the after parties are at tonight. People often ask us what our vision is and what we're trying to accomplish and what do we do this for. And this is really it. And you've had a chance to experience that. Scientists, entrepreneurs, investors, service providers, activators, anyone that wants to be a part of this great community working together to help and build really awesome startups that will transform our economy and solve these global challenges. We are going to be investing in some of these startups tonight that you've seen, and we'd love to have more people that have the ability to get engaged in investing, not just in startups, but our entire startup community. And like we said, the fun isn't over. You can see where the after parties are at on the slide here in Manitoba. I know there was a great crew watching at King's Head Pub. I see you. I will be there within a couple of minutes. Adrian, where are you going to be at tonight?
I'm going to be at Intercity Brewing right next door to Thin Air Labs where Crystal is right now. So you'll beat me there because I got to get there from Marteloup, but it's going to be great.
And in SK, you've got two options there, whether you're in Saskatoon or Regina, head on over to see the folks. Miss Paramita was joining us from Toronto today, but for anyone that would like to connect with the rest of the API team, and you've seen Marina activating the chat today, they will be headed over to the after party in Edmonton. With that, we thank you so much for coming. Have a wonderful night. And most importantly, have fun, make friends, build companies. This is what we do. Good night, everybody.